What's going on, guys? This is Mike with the 1% Mindset Podcast. For those of you who are watching this via YouTube, you can see like a different location, or if you're on the app, which is getting ready to launch, when you see it there, you'll notice a different type of scenery, which is strategic. So I'm doing the, now that we're pushing through and we're getting through this this quarantine life, things that we're going through, being home, self isolating, social distancing, all of these things that we're doing that we took for granted. It allowed me to put some things into perspective. I read somewhere not too long ago that the person said, I went to Amsterdam and I went to the Anne Frank Museum, and this put so many things into perspective for me, knowing that someone like Anne Frank, or if you want to go back to slavery, whatever that looks like, we'll use Anne Frank for this example. She was forced, as well as many other Jewish people throughout that time, were forced to live in really small areas. They weren't able to see sunlight. They didn't have any amenities. A lot of things they just could not do, right? And it wasn't until the nighttime that they were able to somewhat be up in Rome, in their consolidated, in their small space. And here we are, some of us, not all of us, some of us we're social distancing, we're in quarantine, we can't go anywhere, and we're confined to our house with a TV, with radio, with distractions. So much so that you're distracting yourself and you're not even productive. You're not writing a book, you're not prepping for the next thing. And it allows me to think, like, how many times and how often do we take things for granted, thinking that it's always going to come, the next thing is going to happen, we're going to move forward. I looked at the time that me personally I've wasted in, and for the most part I've tried to be very disciplined. Even within my fitness, working out from home, trying to read, trying to stay consistent, drinking a gallon of water. I'm here drinking a gallon of water. This is, I moved over so people can see that are watching virtually. And I'm doing all of these things to try to get into routine, right? Because it's so quickly and it's so easy to not be productive when you feel like you have nothing to do. Like, you're so overwhelmed with boredom, you do nothing, right? All this work that you have to get done, or, man, what do I need to do? Now that I don't have my normal structure to my day, I don't do nothing. One of the things that people fall prey to, and again, when I say people, I'm speaking for myself, because this is some of the, a lot of my wisdom and insight comes from things that I personally dealt with, right? And I noticed when I didn't have structure in certain areas, like, that's when my day went away, right? So one of the things that I did, I got up every morning at 4:30 a.m. to go get ready to go to the gym. I went to the gym, I worked out, that started my day, and then I went about my day knocking off the task. We're self-quarantined now, we can't go to the gym, gyms are closed, movies are closed, all these things are closed. What do? Hey, let me stop getting, I don't have to wake up as early. I don't have to do certain things. Why? Because we're in this quarantine mode, so it's not necessary. But the fact is, or the reality is, when you break certain habits, then sometimes it throws you off completely. I want you to think about it, like, what are you doing at this very moment? You're listening to this podcast. Yes, you're getting your personal development in from this, but outside of this 15-minute, 20-minute, however long this is going to be, what are you doing day in and day out? There's 24 hours in a day. Can you read at least one book a week? I was on Nick Cannon's Instagram, I can't remember how long ago it was, and he said, I'm back to reading 2 books a week. Someone who hosts shows, who produces, who makes music, he still finds time to read 2 books a week. And some of us can't even do 1 book a month. Right? He doesn't have any idle time. Now, I'm not saying you're consuming, you don't take no action, or you don't find time to actually get things done, or have some, me time, some chill time, some relaxation time. But the reality is, you have to make sure you're not wasting the time that you have. You have the ability to be in a place, in a space where the world has stopped. Right? So when you felt like you were behind, this is the time where you can catch up your personal development, catch up on things that you were supposed to do that you can't get to. Like the world is forcing you to be still and to recognize what's happening. Yes, you can't, your idle time, you can't do that. Now you gotta, now it's time to pivot. Now it's time to adjust. Now it's the time to do something a little different that you haven't done before. It's time to make those changes. Right? Because when you're not strategically thinking, man, how can I move in this space, then things will begin to become overwhelming once normal space gets back. Right? You have to look at every situation, especially in this time, and say, one, can I be with this? Can I be with what's happening? You absolutely can be. The second thing is, what lesson am I learning from this? What lesson am I learning? And not doing it in a way that's just, all right, what's the lesson? What's the lesson? Really taking the time, get your adrenaline down, get your stress level down, right? Breathing exercise, the cortisol, get it down, and really say, like, can I be with this? Right? And what lesson am I learning? This can show people, man, I really waste a lot of time. Man, I really put this thing off. Man, I really haven't been resourceful in figuring out how to make money. Man, I'm really losing money doing this is you're forced to be in that situation, to be still, to recognize. Maybe your situation is that maybe it's relationship. Maybe you were completely ignoring your spouse, your significant other. Maybe that's your situation. Right? Where you were so busy with work and being busy because that was your norm. Now you're forced to go back and you have a spouse that's been waiting for you to show him or her attention. And now you get to do that. Right? Utilizing this time as a reflection period of where you seemingly have fallen off. Right? What you seemingly haven't paid attention to. You know, what areas aren't a priority that needs to be. Right? Because there's so many things that we lack and we just let go because we're too busy. Now, this is the higher being saying, you know, I want you to slow down now. Now the world is coming to a stop. Right? And again, I'm not saying the coronavirus, this situation is ideal, it's optimal, you know, it's bad or good. What it is it's there. It's neutral. Right? And those who fall prey to chaos, to insanity, are the ones who are going to suffer. Right? And I'm saying this because I hear a lot of people rebuttal. Are you saying don't be prepared? No, I'm not saying don't be prepared. Be prepared. But don't live in fear and illusion to what you think can happen. Right? Did I go food shopping? Yeah, I went food shopping. Right? I got some food. Did I buy a toilet paper? No. I had some. I bought like one pack of 16 or whatever it was. But I literally saw people stock up on toilet paper, stock up on paper towels, fighting for, like, that's called, like, that's hysteria. That's fear. Right? Those are things that we think is a possibility. And it's causing, there's two things I learned. The only two fears you're born with is the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Every other fear that you have has been created over time by your situation, your circumstances, things that's happened to you, things that you've dealt with. Those are the only two fears that you were born with, right? So knowing that the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises are the only two things I'm afraid of, everything else that I'm fearing is futuristic. It's illusion. It's things that you think that's possibly happened in your past, or the potential of what you think or seem or deem as a threat. Nothing else is the reality is you're in a space and a time of now. Right? So if I'm asking you, why is the hysteria? What are you worried about? What's going on? Everything that you tell me is futuristic. That means you're not living in now. You're not living in the present. You're not concerned with what's there. Right? And I want you to really get that. Get that everything that's happening now is coming from a place of fear, and you're always going to be able to be molded, crafted, or manipulated if you're not thinking clearly. Right? If you're not thinking clearly, if you have high stress level, cortisol is running, and then with the cortisol running, typically your IQ drops about 50% once your stress level goes on for about 7 minutes, right? Like your IQ drops 50%, right? Now you're starting to live in fear. You're not making decisions based on intelligence, but emotions, right? And if you're making decisions based on emotions and not intelligence, that's when you're easily manipulated. That's when things people say start to become a reality for you, even though it's not actually there. That's where the mass hysteria comes in. Right? That's where conspiracy theory, this is what's happening. That's why you see a bunch of false things happening, because people hear something, it's not even verified as truth, and they run with it. And they create their opinions, things that don't matter. They create all of these things that aren't actually there. Right? So I invite you during this time, during this self-quarantine time, this time to chill, whatever you want to call it, however you want to dissect it, whatever it looks like for you, I want you to think about what's actually there. Use the time to adjust, to strategize. Right? It's a beautiful thing, because every time the human being was put in situations and circumstances, they were able to create. They were able to create every single time. They were able to adjust. They were able to survive, right? And survival can look like different things to different people. But what I want to invite you is, think about all the things that you're taking for granted right now, or that you've taken for granted, and figure out, like, man, if this is happening, how can I adjust? What does my survival look like? How can I utilize the skills, the abilities to create value, that I'm not manipulated by what I think is going to happen or by what media says, and I'm actually using this time to develop, to get better? Because when things go back and get back to normal, it'll be normal, right? It's so easy as a leader, as an influencer, a thought, whoever you may be, in times of triumph, when things are easy, to lead effectively. How do you lead in turbulent moments? Right? How do you lead in moments that are tough, moments that don't seem what's the word I'm looking for? Moments of challenge. I think, and I was lost for words, but the first thing that comes to mind is this Martin Luther King quote, right, where he said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Right? Comfort and convenience is easy. I can lead when I have nothing but great winds that is pushing me in a direction. But when the boat gets rocky, when water starts coming in, how do you captain your ship? How do you captain your ship when things are a little bit rough? Do you fold under pressure? Do you fold under pressure? Right? The same heat that softens the potato hardens the egg. Right? The different elements, the same pressure, different element, different result. right? Keeping that, you will have different challenges and controversies. How do you maneuver through that? I want you to think about that. Right? This is the time that you're forced to create, right? You're forced to get things done. Don't stand around. I'm challenging you to not live in a space of fear and use it as opportunity. Use it as opportunity. Anyway, man, absolutely, as usual, man, I absolutely love you guys. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you really making the most out of this. This is the time I expect to see a lot of amazing things happening, a lot of people doing amazing things. And I just want to, I want to thank those who continue to tune in. If you've been listening to the podcast, please support it. You can go to the1percentmindset.com or anchorfm.com and definitely check it out and just be a part of that. So with that being said, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in every single week. And we'll talk soon, man. Peace.